with me. This is Velia Lala, the long-haired chihuahua, in one of her many, many dresses. Say hello. Elaine Tucker and I are here today to roll out our inaugural Cocktails and Art subscription box. We hope you enjoy coming along on this journey with us and starting your own art supply station at your home, and Elaine will tell you a little bit more about that later. So let's get to this and we will go ahead and let you see what we have. Our boxes are all about imagination, creativity, and then of course you can follow us on velialala.com to see other art projects. So it is all about cocktails and art, so let's unbox it and see what we have in here. It is tightly packed with all kind of goodies. Oh, now this is a gift to you, so I'm just going to put that aside and you'll find out about that a little later. This tells you what's included in your box. This is our teaching for today, so I'll put that aside as well. I'm all about inspiring others, so you'll always have a nice little quote, and Miss Elaine made this one a little special for you. The art of conversation lies in listening. And then we've got your little goodie here, which is potpourri. You've got your art palette. You've got your resin. You have your hardener. You have your water spritzer bottle. And then you're going to have not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 acrylic fluid paints. You're gonna have this little tool you'll find out about. You'll have a couple of brushes here. You've got some push pins that we'll show you. This is going to be, oh, look at this. Look at that. Can you imagine what we're gonna do with that? And then you have your handy dandy gloves. You've got a sponge and you've got a mixing cup. That's mainly for the resin. You have this little jewel here that we're gonna put aside, and you're going to see, this will help you for some further classes. And then of course, you have your canvas. And then you're not gonna throw away your box, because again, Miss Elaine's gonna show you what to do. Now that I've showed you all that, we're gonna put it all back in here because I will show you how much I have done with this amount of product over here. So I'll move this aside. Thank you, Miss Elaine. I am going to take off my Love 13 bracelets because they are making too much noise, and I want you to be able to hear what's going on. So with what you just saw in supplies, I have already completed 3 different pieces of art. This is the same, all the same supplies. These are 12 by 9s. And how fun is this going to be? I don't know if you'll be able to see it just like this, but if you have going down a hallway, you're in the same color family. So these will go very nicely if you want to put them all together, give them as gifts, whatever pleases you. So I have plenty more supplies, so I will be able to do several other paintings of this size, all right? So let's get to it. We're gonna start off. We're gonna take our canvas. All right, so now you have your canvas, and I want you to notice that Elaine's already taped off the back of the canvas. You want to have the back of your canvases taped off so that it doesn't bleed down the resin when it drips, okay? So just make sure you do that on all of your subsequent canvases that you're working on. I want you to take your water bottle. I want you to spritz the back of the canvas. Maybe a little bit more. The reason you're spritzing the back of your canvas is it tightens it a little bit, And that is so that when you are putting your resin or glass on your canvases, you want it to tighten it up so that it does not buckle in as much, okay? Then you're gonna set this aside and let it dry for a moment. Actually, I can feel some of the dampness here, okay? So now what we're gonna do is set this aside, and you're gonna get your surprise now that Elaine has gifted you with. So I'm gonna move out and let Elaine come in and show you what she has in store for you.
Okay, I'm Elaine Tucker, and I am here to help you with your little prize that you got in your box, part of the cocktail side of the artistic box. Miss Velia is the artist. I'm not going to say that I am a cocktail queen, but I do know that the cocktail does help me be a little bit more creative and relaxed, because I have a tendency to try to stay inside the lines, and this is a project that you don't want to stay inside the lines. So hopefully this cocktail will help you with that like it helps me. This month's cocktail is called a Ramos Gin Fizz. It is a specialty of a friend of ours, Dom from Clemens's in Fort Walton Beach. It's a New Orleans specialty. It's an old cocktail, but as many of you know, a lot of the old cocktails are coming back. So in your bag, you have the recipe. You also have a little half and half, and you have a little bottle of gin. What you'll need in addition for this recipe is you will need a shaker to make it better. So I have my handy dandy cocktail shaker. If you don't have a cocktail shaker, don't worry about it. A jar will work, a Tupperware will work. It's better if it's something metal because it just helps break the ice up a little, but anything will work that has a lid that won't leak out. So in your cocktail shaker, the first thing you're gonna do is put some ice cubes. I like to put more ice than less ice because personally I like my drinks to be a little colder, and I'm also one of those people that breaks all the rules, and I like ice in my wine because I just like it colder. So you've got a nice healthy supply of ice in there. I brought with me today a martini glass to pour this into. You can pour it into any glass that you feel would be fun for you for today. In this, I'm going to add my little thing of half and half. This is going to seem like a really weird combination, but it's not. It really is delicious. Trust me. You're going to add your bottle of gin, add the whole bottle of gin. The next thing on the recipe is it calls for simple syrup. Now, simple syrup is just equal parts of water and sugar. You can heat it up in any kind of container in the microwave. And remember, it's equal parts, 1 cup, 1 cup. I like to make a jar of it and keep it in my bar fridge because in my bar fridge, it's very handy. There's a lot of recipes, a lot of drink recipes that call for simple syrup. And a lot of times, for instance, a margarita or something else like that is a little bit sour, so you just add a little bit of simple syrup. Now, the recipe just calls for half an ounce of simple syrup, which isn't very much. If you want to use a measure, you can use like your little bottle that you had inside your cup. You actually have this fabulous little measure. Hold it here, I'm gonna hold it here. And on there, on one side, it's got 1 ounce. So you're just gonna go a half of that. So I'm gonna go to that line. It doesn't have to be precise. Some people like their drinks sweeter, some people don't. Just kind of play with it a little bit. Just have fun with it. Put your simple syrup lid back on so we don't make more of a mess. All right, next thing we have is an egg white. This again seems really weird, but those of you that know about fizz drinks know that an egg white makes anything fizzy. So don't worry about raw eggs. Eggs are pasteurized now. We don't have to worry about things like that. It's not been out on the counter. You're gonna keep it in your kitchen. Right now, I am just separating the egg. So hopefully you can see that. You're obviously not going to use the yolk part of this egg, so I'm just gonna pour that back into my little cup here. Ugh, made a mess. So I'm gonna put my egg white in there. All right. And last but not least, it calls for lemon juice. Now, I did not have a lemon in my refrigerator today, but I had a lime. I'm gonna use a lime, whatever you like. I personally like lime better than lemon. So about a half of a lemon or a half of a lime is what it takes to make this drink, but just kind of squeeze it in there. All right, now we have all of our ingredients. I'm a messy cook, can't help it. All right, shake this. Shake it really, really well. That's really important so that you get all your ingredients incorporated. And in addition to that, you make it fizzy. Camera's gonna be shaking a little bit because my legs are hitting the table. I can't help that. It's gonna get nice and icy cold on the outside of your shaker. Okay, then pour it into your glass. Let me move this back a little bit so you can see it a little better. Try not to get the ice cubes into the glass because it's a really pretty drink. Perfect one size serving. All right. Hold it there so you can see the top. I'll hold it up here so you can see how pretty it is. This is a Ramos Gin Fizz. Delicious. Now, have fun with your art, be creative, and I'll see you next month.
All right, so look what Elaine left me. Let's see. Oh, that is so good. Every month you're going to be gifted a cocktail recipe, and Miss Elaine will be coming in and she will be showing you how it's all put together. So every month, if you are a part of our Cocktails and Art subscription box service, you will be able to go on our private Facebook page and you will be able to find more tutorials from me with my artwork, as well as Miss Elaine will be putting together other cocktail specialties for you, and you'll just have to grab your own ingredients, and I'm sure she will put some fabulous recipes together that will be easily found. The ingredients will be easily found. So, and with that, we are going to go ahead and move on to our project of the day. What we're going to be doing today is working on composition. And you've got your paper here, and we go on the rule of 1/3. So if you take your box, your canvas rather, and if you draw a grid line, like so, you're gonna have 9 quadrants, okay? That's what we're gonna be working on. I'll explain a little bit more of that soon, but for the time being, we're gonna go ahead and start with our paints. I think last time I put way too much. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our paints, and just so I'll save myself a little bit of time, I know that I'm going to use all the paint. On the last tutorial I did, I poured way too much paint. So I'm gonna start, it's easy to add, but so why waste your paint? Go ahead and I'm gonna open it all up. Just put a little bit here and there of each one. And I'm gonna save my gold for last because that is going to be my accent, okay? I'm just gonna move the other paints out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and take my water and I'm going to spritz my canvas. And it's not drenched, it's just spritzed because I want my paints to glide over a little easier. So the first thing I'm gonna do, even though this is primed 3 times, I still like to have my base color put on. I typically start with white, just so I'm getting a little bit of a flow. I do apologize for the camera moving so much. Thought that this new setup was going to be really good. However, I need to come up with a floor stand because I am not gentle and precise with my abstract art. I can't be, it's just not my nature. So the table's gonna wiggle just because I'm moving the canvas one here. Now, I will try to remind you this throughout the tutorial. I always paint my edges. You may want to paint them with a different color in the end. I like to paint mine as I go and extend the designs out. Hey Elaine, can I bother you to get me that black apron? So, of course, I'm dressed a little better than I normally paint with my art because I want you to see how cutesy I am. Other than that, I typically have paint all over me, which I've already got paint on the pants that I'm wearing today. So, a couple of little housekeeping tips is, I didn't tell you this in the beginning, we've already put down paper, and this is like a wax paper, so your paint, your resin's not going to go through it. I highly recommend you doing that on any surface that you're working on, or take a trash bag, open it up, and then lay that out, okay? So what I was telling you is make sure you're catching your sides. Don't hold your canvas where, let's see if I can show you this. Don't hold your canvas where your fingers are so, yeah, actually you can see that, where your fingers are pushing little indentations. Make sure you're holding like this, okay? Anytime you have the indentations, if you're holding like that, it can actually puncture or leave indentations, and it does it really quickly, okay? All right, so now that I've got my base, I'm going to look at my designs here that you have in your packet. So the rule of thirds, as I mentioned earlier, is you're gonna do your canvas, you're gonna segregate it in your sections, okay? Let me do this and it might be easier to see. So the rule of thirds dictates if you divide your composition into thirds, and it doesn't have to be totally equal thirds, you place your key elements along those lines, okay? And at the junctions, so either, along this line, I'm gonna do something, and then, or I'm gonna do something here, or I'm gonna do it both. If you notice in my canvases that I've already completed, you don't have a focal point that's right in the center of the canvas. That's not very appealing. Even though this one almost feels like it is, it's not just in the center. And you'll be able to turn this anyway and come up with a nice composition so that your eyes are going to follow along. That's what you're looking for. According to the rule of thirds, every painting should have one area that draws your attention to it. I tend to make that area be when I am putting on my embellishments at the end, and that way I can pick out anything. If I don't have something that's really great in my mind yet, once I put my embellishments on there, then it really all comes together, as you've seen in the other paintings. So here we go. We are going to, I've already got my white. I know I'm going to be adding more white to it. I am going to take my canvas here, and I'm going to place that right on my side. Can't talk today. All right. And I'm going to grab a couple of paper towels. Keep that right here. So I'm going to dip my brush. First, I'm going to take my brush, wipe it off on, this is just raw canvas here. I don't want you to prime it. I want it to be raw, okay? I want you to leave it like that. Every time I use a color, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to wipe my paint off the brush, just in zigzags and X's, whatever. I want you to be very random with that. Then I'm going to dip in my water, tap it to get a lot of the excess off. And then I'm going to start with my lightest color aside from white, because I've already got white on here. Now, if you notice what I'm doing, I'm following my guide here. You don't have to do your lines like I did, but it's very easy to cover them up. And remember, you do your edges as you go. When you're walking down a hallway and you see just white edges, it gives you nothing to anticipate. But when you see that on the side, now you're anticipating, oh, I can't wait to see what's on there, okay? Dip this in here. I'm very random with this. It is abstract. There are no mistakes, just change in direction. Thank you. Change in direction. All right. So that's my light one. As I said, I'm gonna just drop some color here. So this is what you're starting with, okay? This is after doing a couple of paintings, and I wanna just continue with that, okay? I want this a little bit darker in a couple of areas. Again, you're very random, as opposed to throwing a lot of paint in there. We're just adding as we go, we're not wasting. And these little 2-ounce bottles, like I said, they're gonna last you for a good while. And just getting some darkness coming in here on that. I like that. And feel free, find other artwork that you like, take a photo of it, print it out, and if you really like it, you're not going to copy it, but you're going to emulate it, and it may give you some ideas of your color schemes. So I'm just dropping this, if you notice, not in one area, I'm just kind of going different places. And I'm just getting the paint off here. And I'm going to dip it in here in my water. The reason I start with my lightest colors first is you just build upon your color schemes. All right, I'm going to go with my blue. And I'm not going to follow this. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. Try going in a different way this time. And then maybe I'll go this way. Now, I will be teaching another box soon, and it is going to be in a form of a cruciform. That is my go-to. That is definitely my go-to design. I want that to be in a different area, so I'm going to fill this in. If you notice, you're not drawing your eye just to that center. Okay, that's what you don't want to do. And I'm going to work in this quadrant. And what am I doing? Yes, I am painting my edges. You could also wear your gloves while you're doing this, but I don't worry about it because acrylics wash off. The reason we have gloves in there is because you're going to want to wear the gloves when you're resining. All right. And I'm going to come back over here. Let me get the paint off. I tend to work on smaller canvases. I like to work on these foam brushes. They do a really good job of coverage. Come here. And if you notice, I spilled a little water on there. Okay, that's fine. And now would be a good time to pull out my sponge, because I'm gonna blend that where I dripped. That wasn't very good. And I'm gonna pull it off. Now look how fun that is. Did I mean to do that? No. Is it cool? Yup. And that's why I like having sponges around. And oh, by the way, you can clean every bit of this, save it, and Elaine will come back and give you a little bit more information about that in a bit. I do tend to go through a lot of paper towels, so I get them at the dollar store. All right, we're gonna go on to our plum, which is close to purple, which is purple and fuchsia are my two favorite colors. And I am gonna choose a couple of places to put that color down. So what you're wanting to do is you want to bring someone's eye around your canvas. Here, follow that line, and then follow this line over here. This is rather dark right now, but I am going to be lightening it up. And on this canvas, I think out of my others, I had two that they had a lot of the plum on there. This one, I think I want to have a little bit more of the teal and blue. Okay, Not crazy that I have that there, but I'm gonna come back and take care of that momentarily. And this canvas, it's not gonna take you very long to do all this because it's a small canvas. But as I mentioned before, the supplies you have, you easily can do a 20 by 20, 20 by 30 canvas after you finish your trial and error one here. Your trial and error one sometimes are the best ones you do. I can't tell you how many people, when I do these, they want those as opposed to the larger ones, because it is easier to put these in a bathroom or in a kitchen, in a hallway. Yeah, I'm liking that a little bit more. And you're just blending you're just blending now. I don't want too much of my edge there. Yeah, hope you don't get dizzy with this shaking. Now I think I'm gonna go back with, I just want to break this up a little bit more, and that would be one of my quadrants right there. Now if your paint gets too, if it's too wet, then you can take a blow dryer and blow it off, because at this point either I could need to drop quite a bit of this paint color in, or it's going to start blending because my brush is a little too wet, or the paint underneath is too wet. So I may just do that, because I needed to get my edges covered. And some down here, fill a little bit in here. And then before you get too far in it, make sure all your edges are done. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and take my sponge. I'm going to wet it, squeeze it out, and I'm going to get into my white. Now if you notice, I was dropping white right here, and then once I hit that plum color, because it's not dry, it started bleeding into it, which is okay. We'll see if it does that up here, and if it does, then I'm gonna need to, oh no. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and take my blow dryer. So it's such a little canvas, it's gonna blow dry really quick. So. So that took maybe 30 seconds, but it is dry to the touch. And like I said, I'm gonna go back in with my white, because I really want some nice white areas for this one. Get your edges. Blend if you want. You can use your paint brushes for this. I just prefer to be a little more abstract here. Okay. I think I really want some, where that water dropped. Really like what that's doing right there. What do we think? Out of white. I could pour more, but kind of tells me why. Do you want to lighten these up a little bit? So now look what happens. I'm very, very lightly dragging my sponge over it. So it's almost like you're dry brushing it. And it totally changes the aspect of that painting. And you don't forget to do your edges, because you don't want those to be your stark colors. And like I said, you're just dry brushing. I'm doing it in several different directions. Don't want lines in there. I'm gonna grab the rest of my paint. And I really like that now. I really like that. Okay, now, what do we think? What you think? Can't really decide what you think yet, can you? I'm gonna move my paints aside for right now. And I'm going to pick up my tool that you have. So this is, I find all kind of different tools around, and this is now a stencil for me. I still go by my rules of 1/3. You can very easily see where they are. My lines are here, and then it's going to be like this whole quadrant here where I drop those colors. I dropped this color here, in that quadrant here, and there you have it again there, okay? So when I use my stencil, I don't want to drop it right in the middle of the canvas, okay? You want to go ahead and find some neat areas. You can do solid right here. I think what I'm going to do is look at one of my other canvases, because I want to display these together, so I want it to be around the same design. Thank you. So this one, I have it in certain places. This one, no. Oh, thank you. There we go. I really like this one. Okay. So if you notice how I did it there, I did it over here. So I'm just wanting to make sure I don't put the lines in the same exact place. So that's why I keep these to refer back to. Okay. Thank you. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I've got my calligraphy paint pen, and I'm just going to find the areas of the lines that I want. I always work in odd numbers. Okay, I think I want a few more than that. And I'm not closing these in, because this is going to be where I use my highlight color in my gold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Some I might do a little bit darker lines than others. Again, just, pick it up, see what you think. It's not going to look like anything right now until you come back and add your other color. Okay. On this one, I'm going to do it totally opposite. So that was on that quadrant. I'm going to do it on this quadrant. And I am going to do this way. So this is called mark making. And I'll show you a little bit more on that. The good thing about this art subscription box service is that you can turn me on and off as much as you want. You can work on your projects, let them dry, as opposed to using a blow dryer and come back the next day or in a couple of hours. Whatever works for you, and you will always have access to these. So when you get those larger canvases to work with, then you're applying the same information. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to do right here. And want to make sure you share. Every month we're going to have drawings, giveaways. So if you share your box openings, you're going to see in your printables, you'll see our barcode, our QR code, where you can share these online by scanning that. Share your projects that you've done and tag us, and then you may get other canvases sent to you. You may get other fun goodies. We'll have a drawing every month for 1 or 2 giveaways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So, and then I'm going to do one down here. And this one's going to be totally different again. Alrighty. And then I need, I guess, something. It's easy to put that back over here. And guys, you can find all kind of, once you see the few of these things we send you, you're going to find all kind of things around the house. It's like, oh, I can't wait to try that. That's going to be so cool. That's how I've learned. It's all about trying out new products and new designs. And don't overthink it like I'm doing. Okay, now I love these pens because I'm all about designs and mark making, where it just comes to me, and I love to doodle, so I'm gonna doodle. I always, and it's like I said, I do odd numbers, and I love doing 3 dots. Even when I'm putting my correspondence together, I do the same thing. And it just gives you something else to look at and wonder, what was she thinking? I tend to say that to myself a lot. And I guess I kind of want to connect this a little bit, so and that stayed open, leave it that way. Leave it that way. Okay. And see, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we have to have another one. And I don't want it to be right there in the middle, so I guess we're going to, where would I put that? Right there. All right, so I'll put that aside, and you'll be able to use this a lot. So I'm going to pull out my gold, add just a little bit. Like I said, last time I filled these up, and you can see I still have, I said be gentle and sparingly with it, and I still have a lot that's just going to get wasted. Unless you want to open your cap like so and put it back in. I wouldn't bother, because you've got a full 2 ounces here. You don't want to contaminate your paint, okay? So you got 2 different paintbrush sizes here. I am going to, I think, just use my small one, because if I use the large, oh no, I'm actually going to use both of them, okay. Put them in water. I'm going to do some longer strokes here. A little too much water. I know what I didn't do is you want to shake up your paint before you pour it in, because I can see that it is not blended very well. All right, do a little here. This one I'll have large. They don't have to go the same way either, remember that. And then I'll do a large one here, here, and then I will be a little bit more purposeful with the other brush. Can't have those go in different directions if I don't have this one. And so some of these are thicker than the others. That's great. And what are we doing? We're making sure to do this. Oh. Forgot my edges. All right. Make sure to keep your brushes clean. These are professional grade brushes, so we're not skimping and giving you just craft brushes, which you may get it once in a while, but we want to make sure that we're building up your art closet. Okay, now I am going to be more purposeful with this and get a little bit more detailed because I want to fill in the boxes. I don't wear hanging necklaces when I'm working on my artwork, as I mentioned. I take my bracelets off. Every once in a while I forget. I didn't take my rings off, but I probably should have, just because I get a little messy when I work with my abstracts. And that's okay. It feeds my soul. It is art therapy for me. The hardest thing about doing these tutorials is I used to say I never painted any art piece without having music just blaring in the background. Can't really do that here. So I can't say that anymore. And then now, since I've dried this other brush, I'm gonna go back to it, pick up just the little leftovers here, dry the brush off again, and then I'm gonna come and I'm gonna hit my edges. Remember how we were dry brushing the white? We're dry brushing the gold now. And then I'll drop it down a little bit again. So now I hold my brush on the side like that, and then I kind of scrunch it. Just so you have a little bit of gold mixed in here and there. I'm not bothering to put any more paint in there because I just want this as a highlight. And when it's done, it's done. And I think that's going to be fine. All right, clean that off. Although I should have done it there because you don't want to waste your paint. And now we are ready to go on to our resin. So what you're going to have to do is, this has to completely dry. So I'm going to blow dry it one more time. I'm finished with my paints. Even though you think you're not finished, you have to come to a stopping point. I tend to teach my students in person, just walk away, walk away. So I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this because once I introduce the resin to it, it has to be completely dry or it will not cure your resin, okay? So I'll take a couple of minutes here. Actually, I'll take probably 30 seconds again, and I'll get that done, and then we will set up to do our resin. Thank you, Elaine. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do here is you're gonna wanna have two things ready. You are going to use your push pins that I have here. Put those on the back, and you want them to be as even as possible. And what this does is this raises your canvas off the table, as I mentioned, so that your resin can drip. Now, it's better if you push them all the way in so that they are even. I'm having a little bit of problems with that. Maybe I could do it this way. I use a level when I'm working on most of my canvases. See, if it does that, that's not going to be good because your resin is self-leveling and it's going to go to one side. I rarely use these push pins because I work on much larger pieces. I went to Lowe's and got my triangles. They are pink triangles, and you sit everything that way. You can also find anything around the house that you can put under the corners, but with working on smaller canvases, these work the best. This works the best because you don't want things that is going to, if you set it on a lot of these, you don't want them where the resin's going to drip down and coat your bottles. Likewise, it'll stick things together, and you don't want to put you don't want to put something. Some people think that, oh, I can just put a cup or put it like that, but then what happens is it pushes this up, so then everything runs down that way. Okay, so you can tell it's still not level. Get that thing level. All right. What the heck? Okay, I'm going to put this aside right now, and we are going to work on our resin. I use art resin. It is one of the, if not the best, it is one of the best resins out, and it's food safe. I make a lot of Lazy Susans with my art resin. I make a lot of charcuterie boards with my art resin, and children can use art resin because you don't have the fumes like you used to. So that is one of the main ones I use, and that's what I use for all my wall art, and then my food art. Aside from that, when I'm working on outside, I do use another resin that I will teach you about later on. This one's very easy. You put one part resin, and then you put 1 part hardener, and you're going to mix it for 3 minutes. So you have 2 ounces of resin in your box. As I said, I've already created 3 pieces. This is going to be my 4th, and I still have quite a bit of resin left. That 2 ounces is going to get you, it'll be 4 ounces of mixed solution, and that's plenty to make, like I said, some larger pieces. And another thing is, I tend to cover some of my newer pieces. I tend to cover only a portion of the piece. I don't cover the whole piece. So let's go ahead. I like to put my hardener in first. On this size canvas, you're only going to be putting about a 1/2 ounce. And for me, it's just so much easier to mark it on here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to mark it so I know where I'm pouring, okay? Because once it's sitting down, it's a little harder. So I'm going to mark a 1/2 ounce and then 1 ounce. I'm going to, you want to be very careful. This resin is quite expensive, and you don't want to be wasteful. And that's why we put them in these as opposed to other containers that you have to, it's easier to pour, it's easier to store. It's better if you have this. If you're holding it, it's not going to be as level. It's better if I were to have put this on a box, but I've done it enough that I can hold it. But for you guys, I would rather see you sit this on top of a box, eye level, so that you can pour it in and you're not wasting it. And it's very imperative, again, that you get these measurements right, because if they're not equal, it's not going to mix well. We have that. Now, I want you to make sure that you take a clean paper towel, wipe this off really well. Get your fingernails, if you can, in it. Wipe that off really well. Close it. Make sure it's tight. Always store it upright after you've used it the first time. If you want to get it even cleaner, use denatured alcohol, and that way it won't be sticky at all. I tend to try to clean all my stuff very well. I'm not gonna lie, that's telling a fib. I do not do that. Elaine takes care of me that way. I was catching myself there. I'm very, 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 very blessed. I'm a full-time realtor, so she backs me up with all this. So now that I have it mixed, I'm going to set my timer to 3 minutes, and you're going to take your tongue depressor you have here, and you're just going to mix this like you are mixing cake batter. You really don't want to be whipping it. You don't want to introduce air into it as much. Meaning you don't want to raise your tongue depressor. You don't want to mix it fast. And if you'll see what I'm doing, I am scraping all the edges on the round side, and then I am going back into every which way to scrape the bottom. Yeah, like I said, I'm a full-time realtor here in the Florida Panhandle, mainly in the 30A, Destin, Miramar Beach area. And so I get to come in my studio, and Elaine has most everything taken care of for me. It's good to have a good partner. Okay, now that we have mixed our resin completely, we are going to go ahead and apply it to our canvas. So I'm going to move everything out of the way. So you're going to want to grab your gloves. Tra-la-la-la. And as I mentioned, you can completely cover your canvas, or you can find areas that you want to cover your canvas and don't completely cover it. For this class purpose, I am going to completely cover it, and that's why I mixed 1/2 ounce and 1/2 ounce. And I'm going to, so I have a brush that's clean, dry, okay? And you don't have to use a brush. You can use your tongue depressor, or you can use an old hotel room card. You can use a credit card. You can use a business card. And I think that's what I'm gonna do, is probably use a business card. Look at that one. What do you think? Use that one? Okay, yeah. All right, so I start by pouring straight through the middle. I'm gonna take my tongue depressor, and I am going to get every drop of this out. I'm going to let that sit right here. I'm gonna take a paper towel, completely wipe this out really, really good, because these are hard to find. And I do mean completely, okay? And then you can go back after you finish your project and rinse this with hot soapy water, just regular dishwashing soap. And then that way you're gonna be able to use it again, okay? Gotta change a glove since that one has a hole in it. Hopefully we won't send you any that have a hole in them. Oop. See, I am definitely not perfect when I am working with my art. Okay. Now I'm gonna take my card and you're gently going to pull your resin out. You don't want to, if you're digging it in and you see little divots, that means you're doing it too heavy. And that means it'll drip off the side like I just did, because I was doing it a little too fast. And then you're just wasting your resin. I do want it to go to the sides, but I'm going to help it do that myself. I don't want it to spill over. I want this to be a little thicker because I'm going to be embellishing this. Boy, this would be fabulous on a large painting. I think I like this one better than the others. Alright, so I'm going to take every little bit of resin that I can off. Dispose of that. Take this. Now I'm going to take my fingers and I'm just going to, again, I'm not digging in. I don't want to waste my foam brush because I'm going to do another project with it. Guys, art supplies are expensive. So I'm just going to allow my fingers to glide over and put resin on the edge. Like I said, we did half an ounce and half an ounce, and it's perfect for this size canvas. The good thing about having your push pins on the bottom is it allows me to be able to pick this up very easily. Okay. That was the perfect amount of resin. So you should be able to do several canvases. And if you go to my website, velialala.com, you are going to be able to find other supplies for other classes or our starter kits. You'll be able to order those and we can ship those to you. We'll also have other boxes that you can purchase, and then you can also look into the art subscription box service. And along with that, you will have opportunities to give us some feedback on what type of tutorials you want to see, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so now I'm going to torch this, and unfortunately you're not going to be able to see this from the side, but if you look to the side of your painting, you're going to see some bubbles. So this is a torch we carry, and you can use, if you make creme brulee and some desserts, you might have one at home. I tend not to use this on the small of a canvas, because if you're not used to using a torch, then you may burn your canvas. You want to be at least 6 inches from your canvas, and you're going to go just ever so slightly back and forth. Okay, like I said, this is a little too much power for some, and so we have these available, and it's just a little pen torch, which is really cool, and it gives you just enough flame that you don't have to worry about burning your canvas. It's easy to store, and it does the job. So I use these now on my smaller canvases. And what you're doing is it's just dissipating the bubbles. You can use a blow dryer. I just don't see that it works as well as just a little torch. Okay, and you don't want, again, I'm going to stress, you don't want to have that too close or in one position too long, because it can actually introduce more bubbles. Along with your kit, you have been given some glass. This is the second time I've used this little pouch. So, and I probably could have done it with all 4 of my canvases in, I probably could do 3 with this one, but I tend to put more jewels on mine because that's what my buyers like, is they like it heavily embellished. So don't just pour it out, don't just pour it all over here. You want to be very mindful. You want to go back to your rule of thirds. This is my quadrant here, okay? So you've got 9 areas, and you want to pick out what you want to either highlight or what you want to put in the background. Now for me, I'm actually going to put it on my gold because my gold is popping a whole lot, and this is all reflective glass. You don't want to put it down one by one, but I just want to see how it's going to look on that. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is, I don't believe I did it on the gold on any of the others. I think I did it on the, yeah, Elaine's showing me, thank you. Yeah, let me take this one if you don't mind. So this is the closest one to what I've got going on right here, okay? So I ended up doing, again, there's my cruciform. I ended up going with this, okay? So I didn't follow my patterns of my lines there. And I wish I would have added those lines, but I didn't. I should have looked at this a little closer. So, but that's okay. The other thing I forgot to tell you is I should have had you sign your painting before you resined it, but that's okay because I come back and I just use a Sharpie to sign mine afterwards if I forget. Okay. So I'm just going to drop some here, drop them here. So I'm going to follow I'm going to go ahead and use all the rest of the ones I have, and then I'm just going to follow my lines of my golds. So I'm definitely going to try to get it on all of the little squares. If it falls to the edge, just use your tongue depressor and move it back over. And I'm sure Elaine will show you other ideas of what to save these for. Like I said, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, share. We're gonna have lots of fun projects coming up. Elaine will always gift you with some cocktail ideas. And with that, I think we're gonna be done. What you wanna do is, you wanna take and I don't have one to show you right here, but you wanna take a box that's going to be larger than this. It's not going to be your gift box, but you want to take a box or a cookie pan, not a cookie pan, it needs to be raised up like this, but you want to cover it so that you don't have dog hair, cat hair, debris, your hair when you walk by it. Just put it out of the way. But cover it for 24 hours, come back the next day, and then you're going to want to peel the tape off the back, and that's what gives you your nice edges on the back. And with that, I hope you had a great time. Next box, I'm not positive what we're doing yet, but follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and we will be, we'll announce that. We'll announce the color schemes, and I hope you had a great time with us in the studio today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Elaine. Bye, guys.
Well, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that class. I'm sure you all created fabulous masterpieces, and now you have the whole box and all of your things, which are all ready to do more future artwork. One of the things that I love to do is I love to organize closets. I love to organize pantries. I don't know why, but it's just something that I've always enjoyed doing. So I've always looked at things on how I could organize them, how I could make them so that they're more user-friendly in the future. And one of the things that's really important, like Velia told you, is storing your products so that you can have them for the future. You've got all of these paints. Just make sure when you're done that your paint, the top is clean as best as you can, because that way you're always going to be able to open it. Lots of times people don't remember to clean that little hole right there, and if you do that, it'll dry up, and then you have to use a needle or take the top off. So just try to clean that off really well before you put it in there. You can use this box. You can store your monthly supplies by the month so that you know what you did each month, or you can store your supplies, for instance, in this box. Oh, that's good. So you can store a large quantity of paints. Every single box that you get will at least have 4 bottles of paint in it. So you'll get lots of paint that you're going to be able to keep. Organize it by color, organize it any way that you will remember the best. And then sometimes it's really good to also write on the top of your box, write what the colors are so that you know what they're in there. That way when you do store them, you can store them the same way. You can put them this way and then write it this way, whichever way works best for you. But your paints are going to be fine like that. Remember, with your resin and your hardener, they have to be stored upright. One of my favorite stores is the dollar store. Go to the dollar store, find something like this so that you can store those nice. They'll keep them clean. If anything should spill, it'll stay inside there. And if I would suggest, since you're going to get some of these in most of the classes, not all of them, not all of our classes are going to have these, but I would suggest that you store your resin bottles in one and your hardener in the other. That way you always make sure that you draw one from each. Like Velia said, this cup is wonderful. It's a great measuring cup. It can be cleaned and used again, just like she said, wipe it clean, then wash it with hot water. I wouldn't suggest putting it in the dishwasher, but just wash it with hot soapy water and then store it. They can stack easily. You can put them back in your box because you know that it came in your box. Whatever way is easiest for you. And last but not least, you have your paintbrushes in your little bags. These paintbrushes, as she said, are good quality paintbrushes. Always be careful not to store your brushes so that you're going to bend the bristles. Don't store them so that you're going to bend the bristles. And another thing that sometimes happens if they're wet and you leave them up like this can rust and then you'll get this nasty stuff that comes out. So clean your brushes real well, dry them, hand dry them off, and then just leave them on a cloth to dry. I like to keep my brushes in a bottle so that I can see them all, so I can draw them out. I don't like to have to open anything when I'm being creative, so I want to just pull one out, whatever works best for you. But again, they fit into your box, so you can put them in there. And then finally, your little bags. These are fun little bags that, we've all gotten little gifts in them. One of the things that I always wear earrings because I have short hair, and I always have a hard time finding the other earrings. So when I store my earrings, literally every single pair of my earrings is in a bag like this, or the little bag push pins. The bag that your push pins came in is another really great one. Put your earrings in there by pair so that they're always together. Put them in wherever you store your jewelry, but then that way, whenever you pull them out, you've got both of them. When you travel, you can pull out all the ones that you want to travel with and throw them in your bag, and you always have them together. So just be creative, use them any way you want, but there's a couple of suggestions for you. Have fun with this, have fun with the class, have fun with the cocktail. Until next month. I'm Elaine Tucker, and I'll be back.